18 people signed up for public comment. Under public comment, I will give your name. Please step to the mic. I'll give the name of the person speaking and the next person in the queue. Please step to the mic, cite your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes. First person in the order is Crystal Perkins, followed by Jeff Ford.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Crystal Perkins. I am here from Eugene. I am also a high school graduate and a first-year college student. I am here today to talk about the NDAA and put forth my effort to put a stop to the government trying to step around its own laws. Watching the Senate, I was disappointed to see the 2014 NDAA fast-tracked through the Senate with limited debate and no amendment to prohibit indefinite detention of American citizens. I am thankful for Merkley and Wyden, were 2 of the 15 senators who voted against the 2014 NDAA passage. As someone who is working toward a career in the FBI, I believe in upholding the rule of law in this country. I believe in upholding the Constitution. This NDAA clearly undermines the principles of Americans. Just like me, our forefathers strived towards a goal that was to transcribe the United States Constitution in order to protect their citizens and future citizens. Sections 1021 and 1022 of the 2012 NDAA demolishes our Constitution. These articles are a direct assault on our sacred liberty and Bill of Rights. By allowing the President of the United States to detain whomever he wishes on mere suspicion of terrorism, Congress has given the executive branch unprecedented authority to arrest our friends, family, and fellow citizens, to be held indefinitely without due process. As a young adult, I want the same rights given to past generations, given to my generation, and future generations to come. By not giving the same rights to my generation and future generations, we will end up seeing history repeat itself and see the phrase liberty and justice for all from the Pledge of Allegiance become a lie. I would like to thank the County Commissioners for its efforts in lobbying our senators, as we have seen the amendments of the 2014 NDAA have failed to fix the problem. I now encourage the County Commissioners to take further action and develop a resolution that protects the residents of Lane County. Thank you all for your time on this issue.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Next in the queue is Jeff Ford, followed by Wayne Lemler.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jeff Ford from Corvallis, Oregon. I'm the Northern Oregon Coordinator for Oath Keepers. Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current serving military, reserves, National Guard, veterans, peace officers, firefighters, and citizen patriots who all swore an oath to the Constitution. Oath Keepers reaches out to both current serving and veterans to remind them of their oaths, to teach them more about the Constitution they swore to defend, and to inspire them to defend it. I'm here today standing side by side with my fellow Americans that are concerned about our constitutionally protected right to due process of the law. In particular, we're concerned over the 2 provisions within the NDAA 2012, sections 1021 and 1022, which are unconstitutional and don't have anything to do with funding the armed forces. It's unbelievable to me how anyone that takes the oath of office to support and defend the Constitution can even consider adding something that is unconstitutional, let alone the fact that it doesn't belong there or anywhere. These provisions deny anyone's right to due process of the law. How can anyone think it's okay to deny anyone's rights? Once they do that, they're denying their own rights. I wholeheartedly encourage Lane County Commissioners and Lane County Sheriff to honor their oath to support and defend the Constitution, to take a stand against the federal government and their unconstitutional legislation by exercising their rights to protect Americans, and reject sections 1021 and 1022 within the NDAA 2012. Thomas Jefferson once said, "Laws provide against injury from others, but not from ourselves." I would like to thank the Lane County Commissioners for taking the constitutionally protected rights of the Lane County citizens seriously with the utmost concern.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Wayne Lemler, followed by Becky Lemler.
My name is Wayne Lemler. I live at 89584 Deming Road in Elmira, which is Commissioner Bozovich's district. I know that what I say will be quickly forgotten here, but what you say and do here today will not. It will be heard and remembered throughout Lane County. I cannot speak for you, but you 5 commissioners have the power to speak for me and all of Lane County. The NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, is in part a threat to all of our liberty. If you 5 are able to come to a consensus and author a resolution of non-support of the NDAA in its current form, you will have taken an enormous step in securing the liberty of and for the citizens of our county. I know your normal duties entail the business workings of our local county government, but you now have the extraordinary opportunity to use your collective voice to influence not only our county, but also our state and even our nation's capital. The Founding Fathers stated 6 reasons in establishing the Constitution of the United States, which starts, as we all know, "We the people of the United States." The final reason stated in that wonderful document says, "and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." I can think of no greater duty for a person holding a public office than to take a stand on ensuring liberty for his constituents and their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemler. Becky Lemler, followed by Nate Beckett.
Good morning, Commissioners. Congratulations, Commissioner Farr on your chairmanship and Commissioner Stewart on your vice chairmanship. Thank you, Commissioners, for your service to our community. I am sure your duties are not always easy nor appreciated. Trying to do what is best for everyone is an impossible task. Today I come before you to ask you to do something that would be best for everyone, and that is to publicly voice your unified opposition to the NDAA sections 1021 and 1022. Terms which are used in this act are open and ambiguous to interpretation and are not defined as to their specific or exact meanings. The effect of this is that persons within the United States, including U.S. citizens, can be arrested or captured and indefinitely detained without assistance of counsel, without seeking the evidence against them, without being able to confront witnesses against them, and without a civilian trial or any trial at all. As I testified before you in November, the Lane County Republican Party Central Committee voted unanimously in favor of adopting a resolution standing in opposition to the provision in the NDAA for fiscal year 2012, which authorizes military detention and trial of U.S. citizens and lawful residents in direct violation of the U.S. Constitution, the Oregon Constitution, and Bill of Rights. And I do believe also that the Democratic Party is also in opposition to this. The resolution also supports the Board of Commissioners to urge the Sheriff of the county to develop and implement a policy consistent with this resolution, and in pursuant of his oath of office to defend the Constitution of the United States. I would like to urge you again, Commissioners, to take swift action on this matter and to ask you to compose a resolution in opposition regarding these unconstitutional sections of the NDAA. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lemler. Nate Beckett, followed by Lorene Long.
Good morning. I'm Nate Beckett from Springfield. I've come here to speak against the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, specifically Section 1021 and 1022. Within that section, within those sections, any one of us could be arrested and held indefinitely without ever having been charged with a crime, let alone convicted of a crime. Also, under the provisions of Section 1021 and 1022, any one of us could be killed without ever having been arrested of a crime or convicted of a crime. I do not personally see any constitutionally protected due process of law in any of that, and I'd like to urge you guys to uphold your oath of office and act against this unconstitutional law within the scope of your office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beckett. Lorene Long, followed by Zachary Hagan.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Lorene Long. I come here from Lebanon, and I'm here today to ask you to uphold your oath to support the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I know it's a big duty, and it holds heavy on all our hearts. I am deeply concerned about the unconstitutional provisions, 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA. They take away not just my rights to due process and liberty, but yours and all law-abiding citizens and our future children. I encourage you to honor your oath to defend the Constitution and to take a stand against the federal government and these acts of tyranny against the people. Please reject Sections 1021 and 1022 of the 2012 NDAA. Thank you for serving and protecting the citizens of Lane County. We appreciate your work.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. Zachary Hagan, followed by Julie Collins.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Zachary Hagan. I'm from Crestwell. I'm the Lane County Coordinator for Oath Keepers. Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of currently serving retired police and military. I myself have served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps and a year in the Oregon National Guard, where some of our local members are deploying back to Afghanistan. I'm here to talk about the NDAA. In 2012, the NDAA has brought the laws of war to the homeland. While I was in the Marine Corps overseas, I operated under the laws of war. Having applied these before in Afghanistan on the local populace, I know the conflictions it imposes against the U.S. Constitution. As an American, I've always cherished the freedoms our nation has to offer. It is the reason many people from other countries come here, and is the reason why I enlisted in the Marine Corps and fought for the freedoms that make this country what it is. As we've seen with the passing of the 2014 NDAA, Congress has once again failed to fix the problem. I'm now asking the Lane County Commissioners to honor their oath of office to support, protect, and defend the Constitution. As the federal government has decided to support unconstitutional legislation, it is now time for Lane County to assert their rights, protect their citizens, and reject Sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA. In parting, I will leave you with a quote. In 1979, Chief Justice William Rehnquist said, "Our founding fathers considered the right of trial by jury an important bulwark against tyranny and corruption, a safeguard too precious to be left to the whim of the sovereign." Thank you, Commissioners, for your time and service.
Thank you, Mr. Hagan. Julie Collins, followed by Sally Telford.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Julie Collins. I'm a resident of Springfield. And I got to tell you that I've never been very politically minded, and I didn't even vote until I was way into my 30s. And now, 20-some years later, I'm really regretting that. And I got to tell you why. It's because I now live in a country I do not recognize. I'm afraid of a government that wants to control my every move. I'm afraid of a government that passes vague laws that they can pull out of their bag of tricks to surpass my rights as a human being. I'm afraid of a government that has no regard for the Constitution or the principles this country was founded on. But mostly I'm afraid of a government that could use these types of laws against their own citizens, any one of us. And that's basically what Sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA is about. Vaguely written, can be used against any one of us without due process for simply choosing to speak out against our government. It's very sad today that I actually have to be here to even request that you uphold our Constitution. That hurts me. So we elected you to speak for us, to work for us. So today I'm asking you to consider the citizens of Lane County, their children, their grandchildren, and all future generations. Protect us. Speak up for us. Honor your oath of office and nullify Sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Sally Telford, followed by Michael Kirschenman.
Hi, I'm Sally Telford from Corvallis, and as a mom and a grandmother, I am very concerned about my children's future and about the direction our nation is going in. I believe our Constitution is the supreme law of the land and should be upheld and defended at all times and not be violated ever. I am very upset and concerned that the Sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA violates our Constitution and can cause you or me or anyone in my family to be arrested with no probable cause and held indefinitely without a trial. This goes against everything, in my opinion, America stands for, and I thought that only happened in communist countries. So I'm here today to encourage all of you to honor your oath of office, to support and defend the Constitution, and reject Sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA. Also, I would like to quote Alexander Hamilton's message in the Federalist Papers, number 28, where he states, "The people are to hold the power of the federal government in check to help prevent it from usurping powers." And I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Telford. Michael Kirschenman, followed by Frank Walker.
Good morning. My name is Michael Kirschman, and I live in Springfield. I'm a retired chief warrant officer, and I am really concerned about the erosion of our rights and freedoms that are taking place. So I really encourage you to actually take the action that these people are requesting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kirschman, excuse me. Frank Walker, followed by Sharon Walker.
Good morning, gentlemen. My glasses aren't working. I stand before you this morning because I am concerned. Why are my beliefs as a United States citizen becoming target points for the Department of Homeland Security? They are turning many of us into enemies of the state because we fly the flag, support our Constitution, and have proudly defended our country. I believe that if you look at the long list of identifying characteristics on the Department of Homeland Security's watch list to identify terrorists, belligerents, and enemies of the state, you will understand why I am becoming increasingly afraid. It would be very easy to be placed on that list by associating with an individual you only know casually. Because of two sections of the National Security Act, Sections 1021 and 1022, I believe we are all in potential jeopardy. The latest technology provides a means to invade my privacy, but does that give the government, federal or state, the right to negate my constitutional rights without a court warrant? Because their advanced technology to monitor not only my behavior, but yours? Our freedom of speech is being curtailed by excessive monitoring. What is being monitored? News reports indicate that our emails, routes, phone, and public conversations, as well as walking or driving to my destinations, all have become fair game for surveillance. In addition, using the Common Core curriculum in our schools will allow our children and their families to be monitored throughout their school years and become part of our government's huge data bank. I shudder to think about what the Department of Homeland Security, purchasing billions of rounds of ammunition, plastic explosives, and tanks. Why do we need another strong military policing force in our country? How many policing agencies do we need? Is a standing and reserve army not enough to protect us? But is this arming up of the Department of Homeland Security being done to protect us or to make the citizens increasingly fearful of our government as they monitor our every thought, movement, and purchase? I believe in our Constitution, not the shredding of it. Due process is part of our liberty, our freedom, and our sacred belief in the rule of law. That part of the National Defense Authorization Act I protest destroys our Sixth Amendment right to due process. Without due process, I believe we become intimidated citizens cowering before a powerful government. Under the National Defense Authorization Act, one person is allowed to decide who is belligerent. Fairly recently, before a federal court, no description was given to the judge about what the legal definition of a belligerent would be. As she saw it, that left the term open-ended and could be used to describe almost any unwanted course of action. An individual with such unlimited power could easily lead us into tyranny without due process.
Ms. Walker, thank you. Can you summarize?
Thank you.
Sir, is it possible that you could turn that in, your testimony into the record? Thank you very much. All right, thanks.
My name is Sharon Walker. And
One moment, please. I'm sorry, Ms. Walker. Sharon Walker, followed by Bob Soudan. Thank you.
I live in Eugene, and fear, not evidence, sent 110,000 Japanese Americans to internment camps during World War II. This was a shocking violation of the rights of Americans. The provisions of the NDAA, which authorize indefinite detention of American citizens without due process of law, are dangerous directives to encourage repetition of those inhumanities of the past. Furthermore, our founding fathers, our veterans, brave men and women from our own community, did not sacrifice so we could surrender our legal and moral principles for fear of some perceived threat. Ironically, the NDAA is so frighteningly regressive that it purports to revert us back to a feudal system that lasted until the Magna Carta was adopted nearly 1,000 years ago. You may recall from history that this is when civilization emerged from a time commonly known as the Dark Ages. Does this sound like an exaggeration? Well, I was not aware that the U.S. had declared war on its own citizens. I'm sure the average resident of Lane County is not aware of that either. Think of our children's futures. Will they be deprived of liberty? Think of your legacy as our representatives. Will you stand for freedom? Remember, your actions shape the world you must live in as well. I beg you to please honor your oaths to uphold the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Oregon. And I thank you for writing those letters to our U.S. senators. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Bob Sowden, followed by Skip Baker.
Thank you, Commissioners, and congratulations, Commissioner Farr and Faye Stewart, my Commissioner. And I have my full faith and confidence that you can do both Vice Chair and represent a rural cottage girl. Thank you. The others made it much easier for me. I can just say ditto on those sections. But they mentioned the Constitution, and I have a copy with me at all times. And what they're talking about is Amendment 14. I'm going to read that, Section 1. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction, therefore, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. There's some very key words in there. I know when the Panda was in Coos County, they were kind of saying, well, this is not our responsibility. You are my county commissioners. I live and reside in Lane County. I do ask that I support this resolution to make against this 1021 and 1022. Yeah, I think it's very important, and I thank you so much for hearing my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sowden. Skip Baker, followed by Mike McFadden.
Chairman, County Commissioners, good morning. I'm Skip Baker. I'm a native resident of Oak Ridge, graduate of Portland State, 40 years military service, 7 years in federal law enforcement, school teacher. I'm a local organizer for 912 Project, Oath Keepers, and DriveOn.org. I too am here for the parade of the National Defense Authorization Act, and I don't need to reiterate what's already been stated. I too would beseech you to issue a resolution. And in closing, I heard you say several times here today about looking toward a interesting year. There's an old Jewish curse, may you live in interesting times. I think you're headed for that this year. Thank you, and thank you for your representation of this county.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Mike, Bernie Doyle, followed by the last speaker, the signed up Lila Trobe.
My name is Bernie Doyle. I was born in Oregon in 1936. I'd like to take a moment and give a pledge of allegiance to the American flag. I'm a dedicated American like all of you folks and the rest of the folks here. I'm proud of what they had to say. I'll make a comment after the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The flag in my little schoolhouse only had 48 stars on it, so it's changed in the years. The NDA, I'm in full compliance and agree fully with taking care of the military people and the pay and the benefits that they receive. I'm opposed to this section 1021 and 1022. I find it ambiguous, and I would appreciate that you follow your constitutional rights like I try to and support these views of the people that have given their testimony here. Thank you for what you do. I appreciate it, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Leela Trope.
Well, I know you guys are waiting for the last but not least. Leela Trope, Springfield. Needless to say, I was up until about 2 o'clock last night relearning the stuff about the NDAA that I thought I already knew. There's a lot more to know. And it's difficult for us to stand here today, this group of people, whether it was 5 times as big, and hammer you with the same information over and over again. It's a waste of your time. We don't want to do that. But what I would want to admonish you is, or asks, first of all, I want to say, as you could see, I was writing this as I was sitting. I'm not a big pre-prepared person. I want to thank you for this opportunity, for taking this up. County commissioners shouldn't have to do this. It's your job, but what a crazy time that we have to stand before our county commissioners and city councils in all across the United States, which I found out surprisingly online last night on YouTube, begging to defend the citizens that you're over in communities and towns from our own federal government. This is crazy, but here's where we are. And yesterday, Commissioner Lycan, you said, you know, some of the things last year, some good, some bad, good press, bad press. This is an opportunity for you guys to seize this moment, and become a part of the history in Eugene, Oregon, not to sound too grandiose, but to go on record and say, you know what? It was brought to us. We looked at it. We did a work session. We listened to all these people, and we realized there's something really wrong here. And we need to make a resolution. We need to talk to the county sheriff. We need to talk to our state legislators. We need to make an impact that says, not on my time, not in my county, and not in my state. This is not a battleground. The last time I checked, the United States of America has been considered in the 2014 NDAA as enemy combatant territory. And that's why these laws were put in there. These are not new. These have been slipping in very badly since 2011. In 2012 is when the press finally took a look at it and realized that they can be held accountable for their association just by doing interviews with people that are subversive or whatever, belligerent, as how it's stated. That's pretty bad. Guilt by association and locked up without charges? Those are sobering terms. And yet, we're all living a 24-hour news cycle. And as I read this last night and realized that the press was onto this 2 years ago, and I thought, you know what? They're supposed to be the protected branch. They get more First Amendment rights afforded to them than anybody else, and they're already under attack under this. So it's something that I don't want to go over too much, but I'll be emailing a lot of information so that you can all have your tea and read what I didn't bother to write. But I just want to beg you to stand up and be counted in the counties and the cities in the United States that are already taking this under advisement, creating resolutions, talking to their county senators or their state senators and their Washington D.C. representatives to make this really egregious portion go away.
Thank you, Ms. Trobe.
Thank you.
This concludes the public testimony from those who signed up. Any further testimony? Anyone else wish to step forward? Thank you very much to all who testified. Next on the agenda is Commissioner's response. Commissioner Sorensen.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming today to talk about the National Defense Authorization Act. And as many of you may know, there are a lot of challenges to that provision because of the unconstitutionality of the sections that don't pertain to funding the military, which is the main purpose of the National Defense Authorization Act. And I think that in the research and writing that I've done on this topic, it becomes more clear to me all the time that we need to really be aware of the fact that deprivations of our constitutional rights are occurring, that the Congress in passing it and repassing it and the President in signing it have intruded on the rights of all Americans, and that the federal courts, and we don't know where this is going to end, but the federal courts have been supportive of citizens who are challenging the constitutionality of the law. And I really appreciate everybody coming today and urging not only the Lane County Board of Commissioners, but all elected officials in our country that take an oath to uphold the Constitution to make it clear that we don't like this. And in our case, we've written our congressional delegation. We're fortunate because Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley and Congressman DeFazio are fairly consistent in voting against the unconstitutional provisions of these bills. So thanks for coming, and I hope we do get a work session to do more than we did with our letter, which we did last year. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorensen. Further, Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I too wanted to take a moment to thank everyone. As was stated in the testimony, we did have a window of an opportunity. We realized that the Senate was going to take up the approval of a reauthorization of the NDAA Act, and we were able to submit a letter. Really, quite honestly, didn't know if it would mean anything, but hopefully the sign that our senators did vote against that is a sign that our voice does matter and that they heard us. So I don't know if there's any question about a work session. The last time we left this, we gave direction and the board agreed to have a work session and a public hearing on some language. So I'm looking forward to that work session, and I believe that's going to be reiterated under Commissioner Bozovich's comments under business. So stay tuned. We will, I believe, continue this conversation and hopefully be able to send something that is meaningful in this matter and gains more support.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Further response or remonstrances? Commissioner Bozovich.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank everyone for coming in to give public comment this morning. Sorry, I think I'm suffering the same virus. And I also want to particularly thank the veterans, current and former people that are serving in our armed forces, and the law enforcement folks that came to speak. I really appreciate your service. We're in interesting times, is true. As of January 1st, we can no longer manufacture and sell, other than what's in stock, 40 and 60 watt incandescent light bulbs. I never thought I'd see the day when our federal government thought that they could regulate what kind of light bulb I purchase. I carry one of these around with me too. And I've been forward and backwards through it, and I can't construe the Commerce Clause to cover light bulbs. what I can construe is, it starts out with a very powerful phrase, we the people. And we established this government and gave it its power. This is a doctrine of enumerated powers, and is even more enforced by the 10th Amendment, where it basically says the powers not delegated in this book are reserved to the states and the people. And I'm not sure where we delegated the authority to the federal government to retain U.S. citizens with the military forces. And I look forward to us reaffirming having a work session and looking at passing a resolution concerning the NDAA, because there are other issues that the federal government is involved in that I think it's going to take local governments that are formed by the people and have sworn to this Constitution, reminding the federal government that there is a Constitution that limits their powers. And it's an important thing that we do. It seems like sometimes it's not something the county should take up, but it gets to the point where we have to take it up. I would much rather spend my time working on our public safety plan or trying to work on our economic development here locally. But it gets to the point where Washington, D.C.'s become so disconnected with this document that it's going to take us local representatives closest to the people. That's where government really should be, is closest to the people, to remind those that have gotten distant from the people that it was the people that gave them their power. So thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Commissioner Bozovich. Further remonstrance, Commissioner Lycan.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the folks who took their time out to come here this morning. I'd like to just read real quickly. This is from CNBC, and I find it interesting because it falls on what I call the wave of exodus that's been occurring here in the United States as well. It's one of the largest and most rapid wealth migrations of our time. Hundreds of billions of dollars and waves of millionaires flowing out of China to overseas destinations. Now, I know many folks believe China is the next great superpower, economic superpower, which could very well be the case. But did you know that last year was the first time ever that the Dow Jones Industrial cracked 16,000? Now, I want you to put this in perspective. We are still in somewhat of a recession. The economy is not climbing. Think about the 30 companies that make up the Dow Jones Industrial. Did you know they found it to be a safer and a better investment to invest outside of the United States? Why are companies investing in places like Panama, Belize, Azerbaijan, is that how you say it? So think about that for a second. That's where these companies are fleeing. That's where they're making their investments. They're not making them here in probably the greatest investing country in the world. They're taking them outside. And I find it interesting that what I would call the sophisticated Chinese investors are beginning to see the same thing. It tells me that government regulation does not solve anything. In fact, it's a hindrance and will continue to be a hindrance. And so while I think some regulations are quite appropriate, I like to drink safe water. I might like to make sure we have safe air. I mean, we need to have safety measures in place. But going too far will cause those who are, by the way, the most mobile, because the very wealthy are by far the most mobile. They don't have to live here. They don't have to be here. They can take their money and invest it elsewhere. And so I say this because I think what the testimony we're hearing today is unfortunately kind of a pattern we're beginning to see more and more here in our country, and I find it to be absolutely unacceptable. And the last thing I want to see is this great country of ours, where we've been the great economic superpower for so long, the freedom. People had wanted to come here, and the American dream. I don't want to see the American dream become an American nightmare. So again, thank you for being here. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Commissioner Lycan. Further remonstrances? Then I would like to add Ms. Hayes. Yes. Commissioner Sorensen's requested a work session. Commissioner Stewart has suggested that we've already had the discussion regarding a future work session. Or is that something that any further work has been done on it to this point?
We will get a work session scheduled as soon as possible, as soon as your calendars allow.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Hayes. Move on to emergency business. Any emergency business?